Yes, baby, you're in the right place and you've chosen oh so correctly, because as your family, we have this mandate to make sure that you are having the right conversations and we're able to celebrate great things, right? And this is why we appreciate Corporate Wellness Week, which we're jumping on into. And we want you to take cognizance of what exactly it is that you are doing to your body, to your mind, when you're sitting at work and sometimes not even getting up, sometimes not even taking just a couple of steps which can help you out, right? Because from elevated blood pressure to us possibly even just neglecting our body as a whole, friend, we're here to make sure that you are looking after yourself so that you can last long, okay? Because we care about you. So today we have got the gorgeous Sue Ramutha, who's here to help us just a little bit to understand how exactly we can look after ourselves, particularly when it comes to being at the office and sometimes even being more worried about that daily report instead of our bodies. Everybody, please let's welcome Sue, our physiotherapist. Sue, how are you, gorgeous?
I'm so well, thanks, Daniela. Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to be here.
We're so glad to have you, Sue, especially because you are, of course, a corporate wellness strategist as well. We've got many things that we want to understand, particularly around trying to look after ourselves at work, like I said. But let's jump on into, how exactly it is that we are harming our health in the long run when we're at work and, possibly just sitting behind a desk for a large amount of time.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's such a loaded question. There's so much impacting the way we feel on a daily basis and how we show up to work. I mean, looking at how our lives have changed over the last couple of years since the start of COVID, we're all working in sort of strange positions where we find ourselves sitting on our couch at our laptops for long hours of the day or in our beds now that it's winter with our duvets over. And, when you look at that over a long period of time, because essentially we want to be in the working environment for a couple of decades, it has a really negative effect on your body physically, physiologically. We're compressing our body a lot and we're sort of increasing the amount of muscle strain we're putting into our joints. So we end up feeling tired, feeling stiff, feeling sore on a daily basis.
Sue, have you been peeking into my room? Because I sit in those blankets all the time with my laptop. Okay, no, oh my goodness. But Sue, how can we as South Africans, particularly who are on such a tight deadlines, trying to meet all of these crazy ways in which we really just need to get our jobs done, how can we actually, realistically fit movement or even just a little bit of posture, looking after our posture into our daily lives?
The simple answer to that question is with intention.
Okay.
Our lives are really busy. We're all juggling multiple things. There's multiple balls in the air at any given time. And we can often forget to move.
That's true.
Because we're not thinking about it or it's not a priority in our lives. So just being intentional with introducing more steps in your day. So like when you're getting into the office, maybe park a little bit further away from the entrance to your office. So you have to walk maybe an extra 100 steps. Try in the day to maybe use a bathroom that's on the floor above the floor that you're at. So it requires you to go up and down a flight of stairs. I always say movement is lubrication. Movement is allowing your joints to get oiled and for things to be moving. And the more you're resting, the more you're stuck, the more you're sedentary, the more you're rusting.
And you know what, Sue, you're actually making me even realize now that it doesn't take too much to try and make a difference in that daily routine of yours. And even just a little bit of that movement, like you say, it ends up being a lot over the long run, right?
Absolutely. And Zanella, we all struggle to fit everything into our days. If you think about it, I rarely get to the gym to exercise because I don't find the time in my day. If it's not something that I prioritize in the morning, by the end of the day, I'm already finding excuses as to why I'm not going to get there. So rather than focusing on having this sort of 45-minute workout session in the morning and then forgetting about your body in the day, rather think about ways that you can introduce consistent movement through the day.
Yes, I love that. And of course, Sue, you're someone who works a lot with people who are burnt out. And it's terrible when that happens. I've seen it happen to some of my loved ones. What are some of the signs that we can look out for so that we can hopefully stay away from that?
I think in this day and age, we're all suffering on some level with some level of burnout. And it's important.
Very true, Sue.
And I love these staycations that you made mention of because they're a little escape from the reality of life well done.
Thank you.
But, it's also about finding ways to cope every day because once in 6 months isn't enough to replenish and rejuvenate. It's about finding little ways in your day to sit and stare at a blank wall with a cup of green tea and just consolidate, reflect, take in the day that you've had. I think we always end up kind of moving from one thing to the other without actually being cognizant of what we're doing, what we're achieving. And I get a lot of people that say, I find myself on a hamster wheel all the time. And when you don't take time to stop and smell the roses, you tend to feel a little bit like, oh, is it all worth it? Yeah.
Yeah. And it is all worth it because all of these great opportunities we have and even just the privilege of having a job in a place like South Africa.
Absolutely.
We should be grateful for it. But like you say, being on a hamster wheel the whole time can make you feel like, oh, sad now, what are we even doing here? But talk to me about this, my Sue, because I know that, I mean, I'd mentioned posture earlier on. How can that really help in terms of our bodies and just looking after it and even circulation and things like that?
Absolutely. Look, when we're spending long hours of time stuck at a computer in front of a desk in a very slouched forward position, it does put a lot of strain into our neck, into our shoulders.
Yeah.
And over time, that impacts like more systemic areas of your body, like your musculoskeletal system, where your muscles become tight and stiff. Your blood vessels struggle to get circulation or blood to different areas, which also contributes to a feeling of tiredness, fatigue, lack of concentration, lack of focus, lack of productivity for an organization. So really just introducing regular movements can help over time prevent these sort of lifestyle-related injuries.
Amazing.
And make you feel better every day.
Exactly. How's my posture right now?
I mean, I'm loving it. I would like,
thank you,
kind of keep the feet a little bit flatter. So it's important to keep like a wide base of support so your body feels comfortable and supported.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the things we get into the habit of doing is sitting at these kind of bar stools and working from there where your feet are dangling, and that can be quite damaging even into your lower back over time.
I did not know that, Sue. This is why we're keeping you around for part 2.
A wealth of knowledge.
Exactly, girl. You know stuff. Oh, my word. Okay, Sue is not going anywhere, Mzansi, because she still needs to let us know how we can, in fact, look after these bodies of ours, because we want them to last a long time. But there's so many things that we're doing that are so small, but they are, in fact, harming us just by sitting at a desk. And we're going to hear more about how we can, in fact, stay away from those things. Stick around for it. But then we've also got lovely things happening in Cape Town. My gorgeous Cape Town family. You guys are looking so stunning this morning. Hi.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, on your Figure Breakfast Show, indeed, Mzansi, and today we are talking all things corporate wellness in Corporate Wellness Week. We are getting to sit down with Sue, who is here to help us understand how exactly it is that corporate wellness has really become more of a necessity than just a nice to have, and more than anything else, how it can help you live a little bit longer. So, Sue, I want us to jump right in when it comes to our companies, because you've worked with some of the biggest in this country. You know, what is it exactly that, when we talk about corporate wellness and productivity, how do they go hand in hand?
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that as people, we are multifaceted. So our problems also become quite multifaceted. You know, I'm not just an employee at an organization. I'm also a mum. I'm also a wife. I'm also a caregiver to my parents. I also have peripheral stuff that I manage on a daily basis. And when you think about that, your employee assistance programs or your wellness initiatives within an organization really need to speak to a multitude of things. You can't just focus on mental health, because there's also physical health issues. There's also the fact that people are suffering with burnout and people are showing up at work not present. So when we're looking at how we can impact employees, how we can impact productivity, it's important that we think diversely. We think, along the lines of what is going to help this individual, and speak to the needs of your employees, get to understand your employees as well.
I love that. Exactly, because then they'll be productive, the employees.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the plan, and that's what makes the business grow, and that's what makes the bottom line grow.
100%. And I've heard of this term, hybrid burnout. You know, this is something that, affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure what exactly it is. What is it? And, when it comes to our physical parts of us, how does it affect us exactly?
So hybrid burnout is something, again, that was catalyzed by COVID. Where we found ourselves working in sort of a hybrid environment.
Yeah.
And it's where we find employees are now suffering at a higher risk of exhaustion, a lack of efficacy at work, because it sounds like there's no kind of boundary. There's no direct line of this is where my work ends and this is where my personal life begins. Often in the day now, we have parents that are rushing to school to fetch their kids, coming back, maybe preparing a quick dinner. in the workday.
Yeah.
And because they're taking those 2 or 3 hours off during the workday, there's an expectation that they kind of need to be present after hours. And I think, you know, it's really up to an individual. If you find that putting your kids to bed at 8 o'clock and going back to your emails for an hour or so, or just rounding off your day is something that works for you, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But just make sure you're also prioritizing yourself in this process, and that you're not just giving on a daily basis, because that's what leads to that feeling of burnout and that feeling of, you know, I'm just not being appreciated in this.
Hectic.
Yeah.
And I think we've spoken a lot about, you know, just the parts of us that are also needing the emotional support, you know, where you're kind of just like, it's so that you don't feel like, what's the point? It's so that you don't feel like you've run out when it comes to your emotional capacity, which I think is then so important in terms of having those conversations with your people. So that's why I need to ask you, and particularly even just as a physiotherapist as well, you know, what is something that a boss could implement that would help healthy habits grow in the workplace today?
You know, it's so wonderful being in a physio space at the moment, because I really get to engage with people on a daily basis and to understand what their biggest challenge is. And I find that time is something that we're all struggling with. Time management is something that, you know, if you can get it right and if you can make time work for you, you gain a lot more. But a lot of us struggle with it and find ourselves kind of chasing our tails through the day. So one thing that I think an organizational leadership within an organization can help with is providing little breaks in the day for employees to actually prioritize their movement. So instead of, for example, setting a meeting for an hour, set a meeting for 50 minutes and give that person 10 minutes to kind of do a little bit of stretching, do a little bit of mobilization.
Walking outside.
Exactly, get some natural sunlight in.
Beautiful.
Reconnect to yourself. Otherwise, you just kind of going at it all the time.
Yes. Sue, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've unfortunately run out of time because I could speak to you all day, girl. Very quickly, one last thing that people can do to reset their bodies. What would you say it is? Because you said a staycation is good. What else is good?
A staycation is good, but also just checking into your body. You know, breath is a very, very powerful thing. And I know we're on a short time, but like just using your breath to help calm your body, to help recenter. We have something called diaphragmatic breathing, which I use a lot with my patients, where you're essentially just using the lower basal lobes of your lungs, expanding them, and that stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system, which helps you kind of go into a bit of a relaxed digest mode, which helps you think and relate better to people, I think, as well.
Amazing. Sue, we appreciate you.
And
thank you for all the great work that you do.
Thanks,
of
really
course.
As well.
Her name is Sue, and she is doing the things that need to be done, okay? All in the name of corporate wellness. And listen, you have the job to look after yourself. No one else is going to do it for you, right? So even bosses, you have the lovely job as well of looking after your employees. And that is all in the name as well of, yes, making sure they're all right, but even just getting that productivity out of them in terms of getting the best out of them. And in terms of you knowing a little bit more, if you need any guidance, when it needs you to just reset your body or get to know a little bit more about corporate wellness, you can visit swayedwellness.co.za for more tools and tips. Right about now, as we come to you live from the Samsung DQX in Johannesburg, I'm going to go have a cup of coffee, because over in Cape Teasy, Foshizi, my Carissa, it seems like you guys have still got stuff to do.